We are going to debut a brand new segment right now on Fox Sports Radio. It's a soft launch.
Yeah.
And by that, Monty, we don't have imaging yet because we don't know if it's going to work. But, you know, like how restaurants have soft launches. Come here on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Our big opening day is Friday, but we want to make sure that everything is working well. So because you and I are here on a Monday, on a holiday, I figured it's the perfect time to soft launch a segment we're going to call Who Said What About Caitlin Clark? Because everybody seems to talk about Caitlin Clark.
All day, every day.
Now the first cut is Becky Hammon, the head coach of the Las Vegas Aces, who beat Caitlin Clark in the Fever on Saturday night. But it was more a clarification on comments that she had made during a shoot-around prior to their game with A'ja Wilson by her side, saying, like, nobody here is hating on Caitlin Clark. Mm-hmm. She was asked a little bit more to clarify her response. This is what Becky Hammon had to say on Saturday night.
Well, I think it's construed as some of our minority black and brown women are hating on her because she's white, and that is not the case. Let's take Caitlin out of the picture. What I think is upsetting is it's not about Caitlin. Caitlin, give her flowers. She's done stuff that no man or woman, black or white, has ever done in college basketball. Give that woman her flowers. But what it does is it has highlighted how black and brown greatness has not been celebrated or valued as much. That's what I was talking about.
So that was Becky Hammon's point of view. And I don't think that, in her words, to say that it's black and brown players who are being critical. I think a lot of people were being critical from all facets of the world, not even in the WNBA, but obviously just in the regular world as well. Mm-hmm. Her point about the highlights of players, this is the part that maybe other players weren't getting as much attention. One of the arguments that we had in college in talking about Caitlin Clark, especially in the latter part of her career, was this talk about, is she the greatest of all time? And then the conversation was like, well, no. And then people would bring up comparisons. They would say, well, Breanna Stewart's the greatest of all time. And Breanna Stewart's white. Mm-hmm. Breanna Stewart came into the NBA, or WNBA, in my mind, with little fanfare. For as dominant of a player as she was, and as great of a player as she was, it wasn't something that reached out to all different aspects of this sporting world like Caitlin Clark has since she started raining threes her freshman season in Iowa. So she is that comet. She is that meteor. We hadn't seen this in the women's game before. We had seen post players dominate. A'ja Wilson had 29 points and 15 rebounds against the Fever on Saturday night. Completely kicked the crap out of Indiana. Mm-hmm. But we've also seen that before. And for as great as she is, I think Caitlin Clark brought something to the game that we had never seen before, and that's why it's taken off like it has. And maybe some of it is unfair, but I just don't. It's why Steph Curry took off in the NBA and completely changing the game. Now you just have to wonder, is this going to change the WNBA's game? Is it going to move away from players who are getting 29 points and 15 rebounds, or Breanna Stewart dominating in the post? That's what now you wonder if there's going to be a Caitlin Clark effect moving on. I'm glad Becky Hammon cleared, at least made it clear on what she was talking about. But I don't think that we've ignored other players and are focusing on Caitlin Clark just because she's white.
I agree with you. There's a lot of factors as to why she has been like this lightning in a bottle, as you say. I'm not going to lie. I didn't watch a lot of WNBA, but I did. I actually was at the Sparks Mercury game when Diana Taurasi broke the scoring record. I was there. I've been to several, like 5 Sparks games over the course of my life. I went to the Vegas Aces game last year. A'ja Wilson is a beast. I swear. It looked like she was fixing her eyelash, and then she blocked a girl like seconds later. It was unbelievable. A beast. But her style of play, Caitlin Clark's, is way different than what we've watched over the years in the WNBA. I always thought the WNBA was a little bit boring. It's a lot of fundamental basketball, a lot of layups, a lot of, you know what I'm saying? Like the fundamental basketball is how the women tend to play. They are not as explosive as the NBA. And so seeing Caitlin Clark be this flashy player like a Steph Curry was very appealing. It drew in a lot of people. And also social media, because nowadays you can see when you're like, oh, look at this, Caitlin Clark. You're like, who is that? Just watch her shoot from the logo. And then you can have this whole highlight reel of her shooting ridiculous threes. All of a sudden, you're like, I want to see this girl. Unfortunately for Breanna Stewart, for Diana Taurasi, for all of these other players, Candace Parker, who was also amazing, the videos weren't easily accessible to watch. But now, you know what I'm saying? Like, we can watch a highlight reel of Caitlin Clark, and it is exciting. Very exciting. The highlight reels before weren't as flashy and not easily accessible.
Yes. And, it's funny because TV ratings as well are brought up. And I understand that TV ratings in the past were different because of how we now consume our sports. But there were TV WNBA games that were getting 2 million viewers in the late 90s when the WNBA was, at its advent. There's some of that as well. Like we talk about like the most recent history with players, but when you go back to the launch of it and you remember the Houston Comet teams that were dominant in the NBA with Cynthia Cooper and Cheryl Swoops. And I know Swoops, has kind of gotten into this with some media stuff that she's done, but like there have been great players that have carried a torch. Lisa Leslie, I think many people feel is maybe the greatest player to ever play in the WNBA, and for what she's done. There are names out there. There are great players. Some, for some reason, carry a little bit more weight than others, and I think Caitlin Clark is just so different. By the way, to the point of people are pointing out that Diana Taurasi was correct in saying that she's going to learn real quick, and I think she is. And I think now there is some truth to that, and it's going to be up to Caitlin Clark in the offseason to figure out a way. All right, how do I get better? How am I going to be able to sustain in a WNBA when there are players who are quicker, or just as quick, more physical? You're going to have to figure that out as well if you're a professional, Caitlin Clark.
Yeah, and her coach also has to let her play her way. Like, there's a reason why you had back-to-back number 1 overall picks. You are not a good team. It's not like Caitlin coming in there and being Caitlin is disrupting anything. So don't change her style. Figure out how you can make her style work with your team. That's, like Jason Stewart said, like, her 2 shots against the Sparks were not just because they put them up and they won the game. It was because of the style of the shot. Everything you wanted to see Caitlin do, she did it, and she did it when it mattered the most, in the fourth quarter at the end of the game. We were talking about Anthony Edwards, his layup in the last 5 minutes against the Mavs. It's like, that's not exciting. We don't care about that. In fact, the exact opposite with Caitlin Clark. Literally, what you go to see is what she did when it mattered the most. And so you have to, I think that the Fever need to figure out a way to let her be Caitlin. And they haven't done that.
I think that's fair. I think it's also a little unfair where there is work that she needs to do.
Sure.
Like there is, she does not look this polished in the WNBA game.
Not at all.
Because the defenses are better, players are better. And there may be that, stepped up sort of thing to you're amped up. You're ready to play the Indiana Fever now. But there are times where I do think that not that she looks overmatched, but that it just isn't as easy as it obviously was in college.
Of course not. And that has to do with her surrounding teammates. Like, Iowa seemed like a well-oiled machine by her senior year. This is not what the Fever look like. And when they play the Liberty, when they play the Aces, they look like well-oiled machines.
No, but 99% of the competition that she played against aren't going on to play another level of basketball.
Fair.
Yeah.
So,
and these are all professional women playing in the WNBA. Jason Stewart, our executive producer.
In just in the format of the segment here, a couple weeks back, Colin Cowherd on this network opened his show with Caitlin Clark, which is that's impressive unto itself. But he said, it was after I think she was 0-2, that the WNBA needed or needs to do something to make it a little less hard to schedule against worse opponents, or they need to do something because this needs to work. And I really do agree with that last part. It needs to work for the WNBA. She just can't be an average to above average player. It's going to turn the people that weren't watching it are just going to continue to go on and find other things. But I think that was a little bit patronizing to say that the WNBA needs to manipulate the schedule and make it easier on her. I have a question for both of you. Do you think that there was a memo that went out maybe on Friday from the WNBA to teams we need to start reversing this narrative of players complaining about Caitlin? And do you think that maybe there's kind of a gag order of saying negative things about Caitlin Clark.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
And the reason why is because I think two reasons. Number one, I think that we would have heard about that memo. There's no way that stays private. Number two, in our segment of Who Said What About Caitlin Clark, this wasn't directly at Caitlin Clark, but this was a passive-aggressive way of talking about Caitlin Clark, and it actually comes from Angel Reese, her rival in college at LSU, and now a member of the Chicago Sky. Reese received a hard foul in a game against the Connecticut Sun this past weekend. She was asked about it in the postgame on Saturday.
It's not just because I'm a rookie, I'm a player. I'm a basketball player. They don't give a damn if I'm a rookie. I mean, I want them to come at me every day. I want them to come at everybody. I mean, they're not supposed to be nice to me. I hope y'all know that. They're not supposed to be nice to me or lay down because I'm Angel Reese or because I'm a rookie. Like, thank you, AT, for sending the message to me because I got back up and I kept going and kept pushing. Like, me and AT have been cool since we were in Maryland, so I know it's not no hard feelings, and I appreciate her for going at me every day or today.
That was 100% directed at anybody who said they should ease up on Caitlin Clark or on Caitlin Clark herself. Angel Reese responding in that sort of fashion. By the way, took a tweet down.
She did take a tweet down.
Deleted a tweet that it did criticize Caitlin Clark at one point. So that's why I don't think there was a memo at all. Because if so, Angel Reese did not get the memo.
And also, there's no publicity is bad publicity, or what's the expression?
No such thing as bad publicity.
Right. And so this, even though this is a divisive conversation when it comes to Caitlin Clark, everybody wants to fight about Caitlin Clark. They don't want to discuss Caitlin Clark. They don't want to have a conversation. They just want to fight. But in the end, you're talking about the WNBA, which is the good thing. Like overall, we're talking about the WNBA. We are seeing updates on the biggest sports sites when it comes to what Angel Reese is doing, what Caitlin Clark is doing, what the Sparks are doing with Cameron Brink. That's why I don't think there was a memo about that. They're like, let's keep this going.